Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Two Bros Divided. I'm Luke,
And I'm Noah.
and today we are following up on the previous video that we did going over Noah's 2024 race. Here we'll be starting a little bit into Montana. So on the first section, we covered Canada, which is only 2 days, Canada, and then into a little bit of Montana there. So today we'll be jumping off here with the start of his third riding day. If you missed the other stuff, definitely feel free to go back and watch that video where we covered the recap of the Canadian section. But starting off here, really the start of day 3 in Montana. Noah, I'll let you jump in and kind of tell us all how that was going for you at the time.
Yeah, so like Luke said, I came into a little bit into Montana on I think this is going to be called our second day of riding. And then I fueled up at Wairika and then kind of found a little spot in between in the bushes and kind of trampled down some ferns and whatnot to get out of the snow. That next morning, I woke up and there was snow pretty much everywhere. So and I think I was like halfway up this climb here because I didn't want to camp too high because I was like, oh, I know it's gonna be pretty miserable. So I got up, started riding. There was about I think 2 or 3 hours of snow this day. This first climb was pretty snowy, and then the second climb before Whitefish was also pretty snowy. I ended up getting pretty wet, and a lot of my stuff was kind of soaked through. Um, and it was cold. It was actually one of my worst weather days out there. I was ended up riding with a couple guys off and on. They were also just kind of miserable, and I think one of the guys ended up dropping out shortly after. I don't exactly remember who it was, but yeah, coming down here into Whitefish, spent a little bit of time in so this is not Whitefish. That's Columbia Falls. Kind of came around. Wait, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, Here we are.
that's Whitefish there, and then the stretch between Whitefish and Columbia Falls, a lot of times are considered one because it's mostly, if not all, pavement. Um, and you're kind of in the towns there. I think I talked to Noah pretty much that entire stretch from Whitefish to Columbia Falls.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, sorry, I'll let you get going there, but one and the
No,
same,
yeah,
Whitefish, Columbia Falls, kind of by
yeah,
that
exactly.
Kalispell area.
They're both great resupplies. In the previous year, I had kind of missed Whitefish and had to like go back to it. But this time, I just rode into Whitefish, kind of went off route a little bit, fueled up, went to a laundromat for about I don't know, ended up being an hour. Got all this stuff. It probably was there for like an hour and a half to 2 hours. By the time I was said and done, I went a little bit further off route than I probably needed to. But with my stuff being wet and it being early in the ride, I didn't really want to make any risky decisions. And so I was like, well, my best chance is to get everything dry before this next stretch. I had heard some weather was coming up before one of the next passes. This day was, other than the snow down in the towns, was quite nice. This whole section here, like Luke said, is pretty much all pavement. You just flew through it. The year before, I had stopped, I think, right in this area here. I had to drop out due to mechanical. We talked about in our first video. But yeah, so coming through Columbia Falls, it's a really chill ride. I mean, there's maybe some gravel here and there, but it's just like a lot of turns and whatnot. And I think I was coming out of. So if we're looking at the elevation plot, this is all that pretty much that whole day. I was coming out of here, and I was caught by Alex Schultz and Jason Kiefer, who are, if you don't know, great riders. Jason's from Colorado. These guys are, big league. So I rode with them for the next day, kind of anticipating some weather up through these climbs. So into that evening, I was with those guys, and we're like, oh, the snow is going to come in around like 5 a.m. So if we just ride till like 3, there's supposed to be this hotel over by Holland Lakes that we were really gunning for. There's like, I think Jason knew about it. There used to be something over here that you could do. And we were like kind of pushing into the night. Ended up being like a little bit slower just because, riding from, oh man, had to have been like 4 or 5 a.m. until 3 a.m., like almost 24 hours straight. You start to burn out towards the end. There was a few good climbs in here. There were actually, it ended up being fine weather, but like there's just like small punchy little things. Got to Holland Lakes at 3, maybe it's 2:30. Found that the thing
It's like
was,
three.
yeah, was not, there was no hotel or anything like that. They had closed down for the year. At that point, we're like, well, this sucks. There's a bunch of other guys camped in one of these campgrounds in the pit toilets, and I I think we accidentally woke him up, and then we went over there and we all like slept in our own pit toilet for the night. And we're like, oh, we'll wake up at 9 a.m. and the snow will be done, and then we'll start riding for the next morning. Ended up getting 6 hours of sleep. As a group, we went up this next day, did the
Yeah, and
rest
then
of the sleep. Sorry, was
yeah,
that?
real quick on that other
Oh yeah,
day, Noah was talking about how it was like, oh yeah, it was a long day, but he did 182 miles that day. So, uh, third day out the gate, and terrible weather the entire time. It was funny if we were back in, he took that a little bit longer than needed, potentially resupplying whitefish. And I was having deja vu because it was exactly what happened the year before. Granted, he's making better time than last year, but stopped in Whitefish, had some dinner, and then rode out. Now, when he was coming down that stretch there into right where you camp, yeah, probably up where you see the 450 road sign, he had texted me and he was like, "Hey, this is the plan. The game plan is to go into the we're gonna get a room here because the weather's really terrible. And then we're gonna start off the next day." So he had texted me that. It was getting on in the evening. I was doing something else. I didn't respond right away. And I wish I would have because I would have told them that that hotel resort was a summer hotel resort and was still closed. It hadn't been open for 6 months or winter. I mean, it was during the summer. But I looked up the hotel there, thinking that he was going to have to pay an arm and a leg to even stay there, and didn't end up being the case because that was closed, not in business at that time. I can't remember the exact reason. So of course I texted him that right away, like, hey, like don't try to get to this hotel, like don't go super late trying to get to this hotel. You're not going to be able to stay at it. And didn't help him because there's no cell service in there, and yeah, on the dot watcher side, it was one of those things where you're kind of banging your head against the wall, like it's not there, like there's nothing there for you. And of course, you can't tell them that.
yeah.
So,
Just kind
but
of
anyways, that
chasing.
was just outside perspective looking at it. Kind of funny how that day planned out. But like I said, did 183 miles and over 10K in elevation again. So pretty well deserving day. And then the next day, that's when the sleep-in happened. But I'll let you get into that. When you got going and all that.
Yeah, so like I said, we slept in the next morning. Of course, my dad and brothers, were watching, and they're experienced riders and whatnot, and they've seen this race play out many different times. They're like, people are just leaving, and you're just getting dropped because essentially there's like 5 or 6 people. They were all stayed in this area here, and they all got up and like kind of charged after this climb about an hour or two before we did. So we're like, oh man, like they're like way ahead of us. So we finally got our stuff together, and then got rolling out of here. And then um, by the time we got to like the top, it had completely snowed everywhere. It was probably 30 degrees and snowing for 3 or 4 of those hours. Like I was completely soaked. And I remember when I got to the top of this climb here, I was like, I shed all my layers and I had like another sweatshirt and everything. I switched everything out and I'm just getting freezing trying to switch everything out on the top of this peak. I was like almost 6,500 feet, which in Montana is high. Came down the other side. There's just a bunch of these like the trail this year in this section was um pretty mild. I guess not mild as in like easy, but like there was no trail. Like there you're just kind of pushing over logs the whole time. I think they had rerouted it because I don't think my brothers did that, but I remember when we toured it, it was on there. But yeah, so like it was a little bit tricky to that spot, and then coming into um, later in that day, I think it was before Lincoln. I split off of some of these from some of these
Well, a
guys. I think
lot
it
of
was
those guys stopped in Sealy Lake
yeah,
for a while there,
yeah. I didn't
which
stop
is
there.
massive water. And I know we were proud. Like, yeah, like it's a tough day. He shed all his layers, switch them all out at the top of the climb, which usually is you probably want to avoid that because it's always colder on the downside. But a lot of people did the exact same thing and then stopped in Sealy Lake, and it's actually like half mile off route, I think.
Yeah,
It kind of shows there in the map, and Noah just blew by that, caught a few people there, which is always good. And
yeah,
then was going into Ovando, I think.
yeah. And that's where So yeah, I kept riding with those guys. I ended up meeting up with a different group, and we were all just kind of riding together because we were just like, "This is stupid. Why are we racing right now?" There's a lot of talk of like, "This is like miserable," but trying to stay positive while you can because it's really easy to let it get you down. But yeah, we stopped in Orvando. Orvando, like there's I think Wi-Fi in one of the little places there, so I was able to call somebody. Some of the guys I was riding with stopped there. I pushed on to I was just like, I'm just going to see if I can get to Lincoln tonight. And I was just going to get a hotel because I was like I said, everything was soaking wet. And there was plenty of hotels in Lincoln. There was probably some in Ovando you could have gotten. But yeah, so miserable day. Pushed through, got into Lincoln, got like a ton of food. I didn't end up eating most of it and ended up throwing most of it away, which was a bummer because I was just like so hungry from like the cold and whatnot. And it says I stopped here, but yeah, I got a hotel there. And then, yeah, it's like I said, it snowed and rained the whole day. And I think it was like 40 degrees for most of it, like average. But yeah.
Yeah, that was one of those funny days. Well, not from Noah's perspective, but from our perspective, uh, because the weather, as he was saying, was really bad. Now on my end, had the whole setup going. Was using three different computers, looking at three different things. Don't tell my work. Um, but no, just kidding. Using my work computers. But essentially, as I was looking at it, it's like this is great weather. Like all this is like. Um, why is he moving so slow? Like, what's going on? Like, what's gotten into him? Like, it's gravel, I know, but the weather's not bad. And then he gets into Ovando and he calls me. I was like, hey, man, what's going on? Like, your gear working? And Noah, of course, was like, yeah, my gear's working fine, except for it's all wet and cold and snowy and muddy. And I was like, didn't rain or anything. And he's like, yes, it did. I was like, well, I
Oh,
guess you know. So that's on a dot watcher's perspective, one of those things that the weather mapping over that isn't completely accurate or accurate at all sometimes, as in this case, it snowed 4 inches on them and it was showing, just blue skies and a slight breeze. So on our perspective, hard to see that, but it makes sense why he's going a little bit slower there. And because of the late start that he got that day, I think he did, my notes here say 97 miles that day. So I think the shortest day you did on the entire divide was that day.
yeah.
But that was because you went until 3 in the morning and slept six and a half. And then, if you do the math on that, it's somewhere around 9 or 10 a.m. Get your gear dried out. So didn't have all that much daylight to even ride in. But got into Lincoln, which I had camped in someone's yard in a few years back, like 10 years back, because there's not a whole lot there, even though it looks like there should be.
Yeah, there's not much. But there's like 4 or 5 hotel places somehow. But yeah, I was able to get one and well worth it because I tried all my stuff out. I like took a shower again. I think I slept pretty good, like 6 or 7 hours, which was what I needed at that point. I was still getting my body adjusted. But yeah, then the next morning, um, I was going out of Lincoln and was just kind of starting along, and I was like by myself, and then I was like got caught by a bunch of different people early on. I think they were tracking me as I left, and then this day was cold, but it wasn't like terrible, and I was like riding with Jason and a couple other guys for a while. We just kind of like cruised around. There's some good climbs through here. I remember some of it being like feeling pretty defeating. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention on the day before I had my triangle bag zipper break. I think it was like right here, so I didn't have a zipper for on the bottom of my triangle bag for the whole ride after that point. So that's something I didn't even think about. But yeah, rolled into Helena. I was like, oh, I've got like some stuff going on with my fork, like my lockout started to not work so well. So I was like, I'll just like get it checked out. They ended up making it a lot worse. Just so you know, if you're messing with a lockout, make sure the mechanic can confidently tell you that they can fix a lockout. Because the guy was like, yeah, after he took it all apart, he's like, I actually like these are really hard to fix. I was like, well, great. Now I have no lockout. And so that was kind of a bummer. So I had to like just pump up my suspension in my front fork quite a bit. And then I rolled out of Helena thinking like, oh, I'm good. Like I'd just seen a bike shop, and then I got to ride around, I think it was here. And my shifting was bad. I was like, that's weird. I like checked out my bike and I was like, oh wait, my like chain's really loose. And I like pulled off my wheel to like check it out. And sure enough, my derailleur hanger had cracked. It was probably the day or two before. And I was like, oh, are you kidding me? So I was like, I had a derailleur hanger. So I went to put it on. I had the bolt that it was like a converter bolt, which just so you know, if you're using aluminum converter bolts, like they're to get to like a bigger size, they can not fit. So make sure they fit correctly. And I did not do that. So I couldn't get my derailleur hanger off. Ended up riding, just trying to make it to Butte for the night. And that was really, I was hoping to make it a lot past Butte, but that's where I ended up stopping for the night. And I only had my top 2 gears, my bottom 2 gears. And I was just kind of cruising here. The weather wasn't too bad. And like, but I ended up getting into Butte at like 2 a.m. And this was really hard. This really took a lot out of me because when you only have like, you know, your top and bottom 2 gears, everything else would like grind really bad. You had to really be either cranking really hard and single speeding it and like a super high gear ratio, or you have to be like just spinning super fast. So I ended up exerting a lot of energy and then being like feeling a little defeated because people kept like catching up to me that I was ahead of. And yeah, and then I finally like pushed into Butte, got in pretty late, ended up riding with like a group of 4 guys. We were all trying to make the same goal. And as you'll see, you race it, people kind of pack up for whatever destination they're looking for. So we were all trying to make it to Butte as well. But yeah, that would Luke say. And then yeah, rolled in that night.
Yeah, and that's an important lesson there, and they learned in Helena. There's a lot of things that most bike shops are going to be pretty good about fixing. There's a few things where you just really want to know the mechanic knows what they're doing. So really, anytime you are talking about rebuilding suspensions, bottom brackets, wheels, there's probably something else in there that I'm missing, but yeah, anything that's like
Right.
really technical like that. Yeah, sometimes brakes, if you gotta make sure you bleed them collect
If they're
correctly. Oh
hydraulic,
man.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you just need to make sure that they know what they're doing prior to taking your stuff apart, because if they don't know what they're doing when they take it apart, they're not gonna know what they're doing putting it back together. No offense to them, maybe a little,
Yeah.
but you really kind of need to know what you're doing there. And yeah, we were watching Noah, and man, that day was tough on him. He was really really struggling coming into Butte there. At the time, I didn't know that it was because he was limited in gears. I thought he was just kind of riding slow. I was like, what's going on with him? But overall, I mean, he still did 140 or so miles, 12K elevation for the day, and not great weather. And then add on to the fact that we didn't have um, any kind of middle gears there that they were working with. That makes it a lot harder. But starting off the next day, I know he started off there. Now, on my perspective, I was getting super worried because he wasn't leaving the hotel, it seemed. His tracker had just died, and he didn't get started until he crossed that highway there, like 20 miles in. So I was calling people like, did he drop out? Like, what's going on? Why is he still there? Hours after he should have left, and he did actually leave on time. But I'll let Noah kind of go into leaving Butte there.
Yeah, that was definitely the worst day of the entire divide for me that morning. I almost dropped out 5 times, probably. I'm not even kidding. Like, because I had my hotel was like down here, and the bike shop I was going to was like up here. So like on my way up there, I was like, "This is stupid. I hate this. I'd rather be doing anything else in the world than doing this stupid race." Got up to the hotel. I got up to the bike shop, dropped my bike off, went to go eat, and I was just like so demoralized. I was like, the guys actually came in really early. They're the nicest mechanics I've ever met. Super competent. I'll have to link I'll put the name of the bike shop in there if you're ever coming through Butte, because they were super accommodating, came in early, got all my stuff done for like reduced price somehow, which I don't know how or why they did that. But they were super supportive of the divide, got my stuff fixed, kind of came back to the hotel, had to sew up my pack that broke because like my zipper, at that point, another zipper had broke too. So I had 2 zippers that were broken out of 3. So I only had one way to enter my pack. So I was like, if I lose another zipper, I'm out. Like I have no triangle pack essentially. So yeah, I got that done, and then kind of had, like Luke said, a late start. I was riding with Jason Kiefer all the way up to this point. I ended up believing him because he had a suspension problem that was a manufacturer problem. Like somebody didn't put it together correctly, And the guy at that shop was like, that was up here, was trying to fix it, and he's like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is beyond a repair. This is like a complete rebuild. So I don't actually know what he ended up doing. But yeah, so he rolled out of there at a different time. So I just kept going. This day was actually ended up being an okay day once I got started. That morning was just the demoralizing part. You're just kind of rolling up through some of this cow country. There's a few good climbs, but it's like it was a warm day. I didn't actually think it got rained on at all that day. Rolled up over Fleecer Ridge, which if you've never seen Fleecer Ridge before, you'll know, or if you've ever seen it before, that it's really steep and intimidating. I just walked down pretty much the whole backside of it. I didn't even risk it. And then I came down to, I don't actually remember, just like I just camped like on the side of the road, I'm pretty sure somewhere, and bivvied. And yeah, I think that was about it for that day. I think that I started to get my groove back a little bit and was well fueled and whatnot for that part. But I think that's all I have for that day.
Yeah, and it was, we're still in that like 140-ish range, 9K I think for the climb, elevation climbing on that. But it was mostly due to the late start and the bike shop. And like Noah said, talking with them after the fact, they, came in early, fixed all the stuff and did it for a reduced price, which you'll find that on the Divide. There are some places that don't make sense, and that being one of them. Like he's obviously gonna, he needs this done, so he'll pay you whatever. Like you can get into whatever time he needs this done, and yet they go out of their way to do all these things for no reason, kind of a trail angel there. So
Yeah.
whenever you run into shops like that, we always like to point them out. And I can't remember the name either, or else I'd shout them out. But great folks there in Butte that really helped them out there. And yeah, I mean, when I do the Divide here again, if I need anything, I'll be stopping up with them. But yeah, this day was actually really important, I thought, for Noah because he was gaining a lot of confidence and his mental state was a lot better leaving Butte, not coming into Butte. Um, talking to him there, it wasn't so you can kind of sense the shift of, this is miserable, like I'd rather be at the DMV, whatever, till, oh, like, it's kind of pretty out here, or that was a cool like climb or a cool descent, or X, Y, and Z is going well. When you're in a good mental space on the Divide, you can really hear it in someone's voice. They're not talking about all the bad things. They're talking about all the good things, and there's always going to be good and bad, like every single day on the Divide. You're going to have miserable moments and you're going to have great moments, but once you're in the race, focusing on the positive, you can hear that on the other end. So I was really stoked on that. Knew he was going to start killing it here after that, which he did. And yeah, I don't remember exactly where it was. Maybe it was a little closer to the highway that he camped, but camped somewhere in there. And that night, again, kind of still in that 6 hour-ish sleep range. Um, before and I know he'll go down later in the race, but the whole Montana section, he was planning on getting that 5 to 6 hours sleep, and he was pretty much at 6 every single night. But this night, I think he stopped at 11, so gave him a lot more daylight riding the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. And like Luke said, it was probably a turning point for me. That's when the race became more fun. I mean, it was never fun, but it was more fun. So yeah, so pulling out of here. That's not true, actually. New Mexico had some fun parts, but we'll talk about that later. Pulling out of this part, I don't remember much about this day. I like Luke said, I was getting in my groove, so I just kind of like rolled over these mountains pretty easily. I had good sleep that night, and because of that, I felt good the next day, and I was like, I'm just gonna just kind of go for it. So I remember coming through here, and this actually was quite flat. I think I had a really good tailwind coming next to this section here. It's like all flat. Oh, that's the next day actually. I'm ahead of myself. So yeah, I was just like kind of rolling through here. Not a very memorable day for me. Good weather, no mechanicals, just kind of came through. I think I was riding with one of the single speeders for a while, which is awesome because if you ever get a chance to ride with some of those guys, they're pretty inspiring because they're doing something harder than you are, and you don't even like realize it. So like you're at that point, you're like, this is the hardest thing I could possibly do.
Yeah, that was a good day. It was an easier day on the elevation. Montana can be it's kind of unspokenly a climbing state, because you do a lot of climbing in Montana, but it's not all at once. It's just kind of the up and down, the little rolly loop-de-loop things that you're doing. Now that day had really kind of flattened off, and coming into border of Idaho/Wyoming, because Idaho's only like, I mean, you can blink and you miss the whole state. But coming into there, he did, I think, 190 miles that day. So he's cruising on some of those flat terrains. Like I said, no weather, no mechanical. Uh, it was just, and, we were seeing him pick off some people. Some people were dropping back or catching up to him. I know Johnny No Shoes had been way out ahead of you there, and you're starting to reel people like that back. So riding pretty fast that day. And again, that's just, attributed to a positive mental state. Once you're in it, you start riding faster and doing better and all that stuff. So yeah, that was, I think, I don't have any other notes for that day. Actually, unrelated coming into Lima there, Lima, whatever that, him getting past that without any problems was good to see for me, because that's where a decade ago I got caught in some terrible mud like 10, 15 miles before Lima, and a snowstorm. So I have PTSD from that. I got attacked by cows. It was a whole thing. We're not going to get into that now, but it was a whole fiasco. So I was, knowing the weather is bad, I was worried that he might get caught up, probably right around where he camped, was where the peanut butter mud was, but he rolled through it no problem. So always good to see. Go into the, town of Lima, really more of a city, like 200 people in it. But yeah, and then outside of that, I don't have anything for that day. And let's see, yeah, nothing else on my end here.
Yeah, and so this is gonna be the last day of this video. Like Luke said, this section here actually, I think it was, what is look here. So I had like one little climb, and then I remember I was coming up here, and I think that like I refueled in Lima, and then
There's like one
it's like
gas station.
yeah, and I kept like rolling out, and I think I may have actually there may have been like a restaurant or somewhere around here I've like got some
Yeah,
food
that's
at.
it.
My whole goal was to not waste time in towns, and that ended up being very effective later in the race. But yeah, anyways, I rolled through there. This was a really beautiful section. I mean, there's like some sort of like Utah had like um Utah State or something had like this observatory or whatever view. Like I think they were doing research or something. There's like this campus they had over here that was like on this next to this lake. That was just like beautiful. Had like a tailwind. Everything was going good. I was tired, not gonna lie. My legs kind of hurt pretty bad for these whole state of Montana because my body wasn't used to it yet. But yeah, rolled through there, and then I came into um, Idaho. That was a big moment because I really hated Montana. Um, that was, I think, it was my least favorite state or section. I mean, it's long, which is part of it, but then it was just I didn't have a good time in there. Rolled into Idaho. It's beautiful. For the section I was there, I think I like stopped at like a subway somewhere in here, and then rolled right to the border of Montana, or sorry, not Montana,
Wyoming.
Wyoming. And this was all downhill pretty much. So I was just kind of cruising through. After you get into Idaho, it's like a really easy section into Wyoming, where I stopped right at the border. And then, yeah, that's all we're going to talk about for here. But I'll let Luke do a debrief on the day from the outsider perspective.
Yeah, and again, Noah was still feeling good. At that point, he was starting to talk more about the race, and that's always a really good sign. When you have someone that is talking about like, oh, where am I at? How am I doing? What place am I at? How many people can I catch? And he's like, all right, Haas, like you're just getting out of Montana. Like there's a long race to go, so don't worry too much about that. But it's encouraging when you're not thinking about, oh, if I drop out here, I'd be okay. Like, yeah, I still did at least, it's like, no, I'm racing. I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna take this out. And yeah, that was, outside of the positive mental shift. I think he did like a buck 50 or something on that day, just to get across the border, leave the big Sky State in his rear view. And yeah, next up, we'll cover the Wyoming, which will be a little bit of a shorter video because, well, he's moving really fast. Um, but yeah, and then after that, we'll go ahead and cover the New Mexico video as well into the finish.
And
But stay
Colorado.
tuned for that. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Colorado. Yep, sorry, I missed the state there. Yeah, so we'll cover Wyoming and Colorado, and then New Mexico as the next three states on the race, and what got them to the finish. But appreciate everyone tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. So, thanks, guys.